Hello folks, and welcome to another Hubnut video. This one's going to be a bit bits and pieces. Just tell you where we are with things. The Blingo is awaiting an MOT next week, and I've got a fuel filter housing on the way because I think that's worth a go because we have got a lot of bubbles going on. Elly the 2CV, I have an oil filter, so finally do the oil and filter change I should have done back in November. Oops. But we're actually starting with Betty today, who's absolutely filthy. I've still got no water here, and the local jet washer's broken, so washing cars a bit of a problem at the moment unless I fancy it's something like a 25-mile round trip, which is what I did with Miss Daisy last week. But I've been meaning to change Betty's spark plugs for quite a while now. We gave her a service last summer and I didn't have spark plugs. No one seems to sell the right plugs in this country, but I've managed to cross-reference them to something that I think will fit. I think we changed the plugs the summer before, but again I think we were late doing that because of supply issues. She's not running particularly badly, but I'm aware the plugs have got quite a few KMs on. They've done at least 20,000 kilometers, I think, these plugs, because we had a very busy summer, the first summer Betty had in the UK. I also need to buff up her headlamps again at some point because they are looking a bit miserable. I had to change this headlamp bulb the other day because that had failed, and the side light was playing up as well, so that was ideal. And one day I may even try and get hold of a correct battery clamp. In fact, I know someone breaking a limo. Bit sad, but they're worth more in parts. No one wants a massive 6-door AU limo, not even me. This is quite big enough, thank you very much. So I must ask him about battery clamps because I evidently need one. But yeah, the main thing we're going to be doing today is spark plugs. I was just parked her up, but that's not a bad time to do it. If you've got spark plugs that are a bit sticky, effectively the engine has just applied heat to itself, so they should come out, but they haven't been in there that long, I don't think. So we'll crack on. So this batch of spark plugs has been sitting in Betty since the summer. Sorry Betty, they are BPR 6EY-11s. Quite a long nose on them, but I'm just going to see if I can find the right spanner size and we'll crack on. Ooh, well that's not too good. Don't know how well you're seeing that because this camera hasn't got a macro mode, but that is very, very white. It seems I had a BPR 5EY last time, so I forget which way around it is, but we're putting some 6s in. I wonder if they're too cold a plug and therefore overheated. Looks a bit like that to me. I'm not going to put that on the tarpaulin, that is still rather warm, but yeah. Of course it's all going very Hubnut already. The rubber plug keeps coming off the end of the spark plug socket. I think I may need a new one. I had an issue on the Lexus where that happened, but that has spark plug tubes. And then I ended up with a bit of rubber stuck on top of the spark plug in the tube, right down deep in the engine where you can't get at it. So at least everything is very accessible here. But yeah, let's give this a go. Might have to order a new socket. Okay, that's 1 of 6 done. So you have a good advantage of a 6-cylinder, fewer spark plugs. But I've just tried aralditing the rubber back into my socket because that is just irritating. So I'm going to let that cure off for a bit, and we'll see if that works. But yeah, thanks for all your lovely comments on the Blingo. Yeah, I mean the problem is everyone says, oh, have you tried this, that and the other, and it could be all those things. But I think the fact we're seeing pipe, let's just open the bonnet again. The fact we're seeing bubbles in this pipe primarily between filter and pump, and not so much in this line, that's from the tank up to here, suggests that that's probably the issue. There is no lift pump, so it is only the engine driven pump on these. These are the simplest of the HDI engines, so although there is some complexity, it is still a fairly simple engine when all's said and done. So I've ordered a new housing. We'll give that a try. I could try and bypass it just by just putting a normal filter in between these two pipes, but I think we might as well try a housing now. I'm notorious for it, and we'll see where we are. It's exactly what I said I wasn't going to do, the scattergun approach of try and purchase your way out of trouble, but the math needed doing anyway, and I think that has made a difference. I actually took it for a quick run around, and it seems to be boosting a bit more cleanly than it was before. So I think that was worth doing, even with a cheap aftermarket MAF. And yeah, we'll see what the fuel filter housing does, but MOT next week, so not much more to come on that. There we go, 6 spark plugs changed in no time at all. I love simple-ish cars. And we'll just fire her up just to make sure all is happy. Now she's on 319,000 kilometers. Might move those pliers, you know, rather than having them rest between the battery terminals. Sounds as smooth and beautiful as ever. The good old 4-litre Intex 6-cylinder engine. It's an evolution of the old Falcon 6-cylinder from the 1960s, but by this stage aluminium head. I can't remember if it's cast iron block, I think it is, but yeah, I like it. 211 brake horsepower, 357 newton meters of torque at just 2000 rpm, thanks to these variable inlet runners. It works so very well. Lovely. Right, job 1 done. Next job is to try and get Elly out so I can get enough access to drop her oil and change the filter. There we go, running for a little bit just to get the oil perhaps not up to temperature, but at least get it circulating, ensure any detritus is held in the oil. Oh, poor Elly. She might be coming out for a road run this weekend. It's a little bit weather dependent, but one of the local groups is having an outing, so we might come out for that. Although I've got to change the wheels yet, which reminds me, I've got 2 wheels for Elly in the boot of the Fairmont, albeit they're not the right colour. Well, the oil change is going well. So far I've managed to drop the oil filter into the catch can. But yeah, oh, and we've got dribbles going everywhere. There we go. Draining out the oil. Oddly, this engine seems to have a 22mm sump plug. It's usually 21. But because French, you never entirely know what you're going to get. It's all good fun. This little engine is a peach, but Elly hasn't been out very much so far, because I kind of got her on the road in time for winter, which isn't ever so ideal. And I can't take her home today because I'm in Betty, and I can't leave Betty outside. And there's not room for Betty in the unit because she's enormous. There's not really enough room for Bob, to be honest. Storing Bob in the unit is not going all that well. It's far from ideal, but such is life. The main thing I'm pleased about is this is like the 3rd or 4th day on the trot where I've actually been up at the unit. I'm trying to keep the momentum going, folks, so we can do more tinkering this year. But yeah, very pleased the Daihatsu is up and running again. But this is the problem with Elly. She's been leaking from the oil filter, I think. So hopefully we're now nipping that one in the bud. The filter was not very tight. I could quite easily undo it by hand. And while you should be able to undo it by hand, I think you're meant to have to put a bit more effort in than that. So I'll make sure it goes on nice and tight. Now obviously you should never really reuse your copper washers. I am. This one seems to be knackered. Let's see if I can get some. Oh no, have I got enough gas? Yay! Oh, only just. Oh, blimey, misfire. Burning the oil off. There we go, nice and red hot. And this is going to have to do for quenching because I've not got anything to put it in. There we go. One reusable copper washer. Yeah, quite safe. Lovely. Hopefully that's now soft again. It had some goop around it, which I don't like the look of. I'm not sure Pete was the last person to work on this engine, because the engine came from Pete Sparrow. I think he was just hammering around the country in it. But yeah, someone had used some goop on that. A lot of goop on the sump plug as well, from 2 infrequent oil changes, I would suggest. Presumably prior to Pete. So let's find the sump plug. There it is. And I think we can put that back on now. Oh yeah, it certainly is soft. and bending it, just putting it on. But that's what you want. You want the copper to crush. That is rather the point of it. So if you'll pardon me for a moment, I'm going to head under here. I'm just going to pop my gloves back on. I've been trying to wear gloves, remember to actually put them on. Especially when working on engine oil. Nasty carcinogens in old engine oil. I can pop this back in. There we go. I'm going to leave my catch can under here because we're only assuming that we're fixing the leak here. Let's do that tight enough. You don't want to go too tight because we're going into aluminium. Now I can top the engine oil up and we can fire her up. There we go. We have 1040 semi-synthetic engine oil. Top quality. Can't even remember where I got this from, but I tend to use a fairly cheap oil and change it regularly with 2 CVs. I don't think it's worth spending a fortune on oil if you're changing it every 3,000 or 4,000 miles. There we go. This filler is also the breather for the engine, and I think we'll need about 3.5 litres, maybe slightly less, because I've been lazy and I haven't taken the rocker covers off. If you want to do a full oil change, you'd get the rocker covers off, but that means getting the front wings off. And you know, I'm a lazy boy. I'm here representing those people who really can't be bothered to do a thorough job, and yet somehow still manage to keep their cars going. And after all, I've only just changed the spark plugs on Betty from the service we did in July, I think. It's quite cold, so the oil's a little gloopy, but yeah, I would like to take her for a run, get this oil nice and warm. How much we've put in so far? It feels like about 1 litre. Oh no, 2. Let's see if we're registering on the dipstick at all yet. Yes, let's go and find a bit of rag. Yep, we're up to the minimum already, so probably only need another 1/2 litre. Of course, we've got to fill the oil filter as well. The oil filter goes on at 90 degrees, so you can't really pre-fill it. There we go, we're at top mark for now, but I suspect once we give her a quick run, we'll have to top up again. I'm just going to disconnect the coil, just spin her over till we get oil pressure. Yeah, it's taken a while. There we go. Oil pressure has been achieved. So now if I connect that up, in fact, let's wait before we run her. We'll check the oil again, because the level should have dropped now the filter is full. Yep, there we go. So we're back about halfway down the dipstick again. Yeah, it's almost like I'm doing this logically almost. With a modern car, they build oil pressure so quickly, I don't tend to bother getting the oil pressure back up again. But on an older engine, even though 2CVs seem to have very good oil pumps, I think it's probably a good idea. Just wipe up the oil and dribbling all over the place, make sure the cap's done back up. That makes a lot of mess. I've known plenty of people do that over the years. Yeah, the oil's lovely and golden on the dipstick now. There we go, bang on top mark. So we'll give her a quick run at that. Right, I'm just going to let her run. Might put a bit of cardboard underneath just to make sure we've got no drippage, but I'm just going to wipe up her underside first because she was putting oil everywhere. Right, it's been under there for a good few minutes now. Not a drop. So So that's encouraging. So I think we'll go for a test drive and just check that all is well. And I might actually squeeze Bella in up the back because I think we might want Ellie for a road run at the weekend. There we go, we've gone a good few miles just to get the oil nice and warm. Such a lovely little engine. Oh, but I still need a long-term strategy for this car. I think I need to go and see my friend Colin and work out what we're going to do, because this engine's a peach, but I do have to give it back. I think Pete considers it like a long-term loan, but that can't continue forever. That's not really fair. So I will have to give it back, but yeah, it's just lovely. Maybe power less is more after all, eh folks? Top gear acceleration, 40 to 60, there's 50. Have 60 miles an hour on the clock. Marvellous. I love this little car. Hopefully more adventures of this little car to come very soon. Well, there you go folks, another little happy little outing in Elly the 2CV. Hopefully some more adventures for this little car to come this year. But yeah, not much to report in that one, just an oil change and spark plugs on two different cars, two very different cars. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in a future video. Farewell. Lovely.